Okay, so welcome to the fourth week of this program on human resource development. And you remember in the third week we talked about how to design and develop a effective training program, and in this week we are going to discuss that how to implement and evaluate a HRD or a training program. Now, when it comes to implementing a method, this is the third stage. The first stage was assessment of the HRD needs that we have already discussed. Second stage was that how we are going to design and develop a training program that we have discussed. Now, in this week we are going to talk about implementing the method. Now, when we are going to implement various methods or any method for that matter or a combination of method, we have to see that it is an appropriate method which helps in delivering the program effectively and the person is able to learn it, and that is why the selection of a methodology is very, very important. Now, what we are going to discuss here is some of the issues related to delivery of the training methods and also methods which are commonly employed for delivering a training program. Now, with this we are going to start first session where we will talk about how to implement a training program and also discuss the methodology of delivering training. Now, when it comes to implementing a training program, we have to see that what are the things that we need to take it in mind, because implementation is very, very important. Even if you have properly designed a training program, you have properly assessed the need of the people, unless it is effectively delivered, okay, so that the people are able to learn it, it is not going to help them, right. So, this stage is equally important like any other stage in the process model. Now, when we are talking about implementing a training program, we have to see that how do we go about it. Okay. So, the most important thing is that out of the method that is available, which one is the most appropriate method to apply to deliver the training, right. You remember yesterday I was giving a lecture on design and development, and I talked about that when you are going to design and develop a program on time management. So, you are going to use a combination of presentation using audio visuals, then you are going to have discussions and also role play. So, there are a number of methods which have been aptly applied in this case to ensure that training is effective. So, it is very, very important to identify the appropriate method of training out of the methods that is available, and then you have to see that which one is appropriate, and there are other concerns as well when it comes to design and development and implementation of a evaluation program. So, what are the factors that you need to consider? The needs of the learner, what they want to learn, whether it is related to knowledge or how to apply particular knowledge in a given context, or whether it is related to behavior. Okay. So, depending upon the needs and expectations of the learner and also the trainer who is going to deliver. So, the trainer must be competent and expert in delivering a lecture or say the content using an appropriate method. So, what is important here is that you must know what are the needs of the trainees, and also whether trainers have appropriate skills in terms of competencies to deliver training effectively by a particular method. So, you need to match the method with what is to be delivered in terms of the content, and it must look into the need of the trainees, so that they are satisfied. And you know that a number of methods are available today, starting with on the job to off the job to business games and simulations, role plays. Okay. So, out of these methods we have to see that which method is going to be appropriate, right, and that is why we out of the methods that is available, okay, is to be selected. The idea is that which method is going to help you to learn in a best way, best possible manner. Okay. So, the selection of a method depends upon what is to be learned and which method is going to help you to learn in a better way. Most commonly method that is employed is lecture or presentation methods, though it is not a very good method of training, but it could be used for passing on lot of informations, okay, which is not available with the trainees. So, they can use that kind of information, but lecture is still a very popular method of training, and this lecture is sometimes supplemented with other aids like audio visual, okay, or you can use a variety of lecture methods and these kind of things. So, probably in this session we are going to discuss more in detail about the presentation methods or the lecture methods, because that is the most important method that is used today in delivering information, right. Now, lecture if it is one way, then it is a problem. If it is made two way, probably it can stimulate better discussions. Okay. So, you have to see that how to make a presentation better and effective using certain aids, okay, bring variety into the lecture, and also see to it that it is more interactive, right. So, these are the three important things that we are going to discuss related to the lecture method. Sometimes we go for using case studies, you know that case studies could be supplemented also with the lecture methods. Okay. So, we have to see that whether you are going to use a single method or a combination of these methods to provide training to the people. And with this idea we are going to proceed further. So, the first idea was that you have to see that you are able to meet the requirement of the learners, right, and then you have to ensure that people are able to learn whatever they want to learn. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see a pyramid which is known as a learning pyramid. What does this learning pyramid indicate? This indicate two things. If you look at both the axes, on one side you will find that you move from a novice where you do not have any knowledge to become an expert in the field. Okay. Now, on the other side you have to see that what is your requirement in terms of what actually you know, in terms of the knowledge and skill base that is there, which will help you to move further. Now, if you look at it, in between you will find that there is arrow on the x axis. It means that depending upon your knowledge and skill base, the current knowledge and skill base, okay, then it is decided that what kind of learning is going to be more important, right. Now, if you look at this where there is no learning prerequisite, you do not have the knowledge and skill base, you are new to the field, I do not have any information related to the subject, then there are certain methods that could be used depending upon what needs to be done. So, it could be started with say lecture and presentations, right, because you do not have any information. So, if you are asked to play roles and these kind of things, probably you do not have the background to go about it. So, you need certain prerequisites in terms of knowledge and skill base to allow certain other methods to be used in that particular case, right. It cannot be other methods cannot be simply used as it is, right. So, if the basic information has to be there with you. So, once you have that basic knowledge and skill base, okay, that provides you some kind of flexibility in your approach to think, your approach to perceive, your approach to learn, and that is what we know as cognitive flexibility. And then you can relate it with your knowledge and experience that you have, that is what we call memory association. So, at that particular level, if you have reached, probably the kind of experience that is going to be provided to you through learning is going to help you to become better in terms of you are going to be more knowledgeable, okay, we are going to be more creative and innovative, it is going to be very, very focused, and then ultimately you become an expert. But if you are a novice, then probably you do not know what is going to be offered, okay, you are a little confused. So, it is better to provide you more guided and factual information, okay, to start with. So, that you have the basics, and so that it helps you to think and explore certain things, and you can relate it with what you have been actually learned in particular situation. So, that when you move ahead with those prerequisites, it is going to help you to learn and become an expert, and that helps you to become more confident, focused, to become creative. You are in a position to explore whatever you have learned, but that requires certain level of, you can say, knowledge and skill base. So, that you are able to associate, and that is why it is called memory association. So, you can relate whatever is being discussed with your previous learning and skills, and that helps you to become an expert. So, your learning moves up in a direction depending upon what is your requirement and whether you will be able to process that information effectively or not, right. So, this learning pyramid is explained to see that when you are going to implement a particular method, in what way you can use it and decide what kind of training method is to be used. Now, when it comes to defining training method, what is a training method basically? it is basically activities that a trainer or instructor is going to carry out, okay, to convey what. So, look at what is going to be conveyed, that is knowledge, experience or information to facilitate your learning. So, he is going to convey certain knowledge, experience or information, so that it helps you to learn. So, knowledge is going to make you more knowledgeable, experience is going to help you to apply that, okay, so that you can perform your job effectively, right. So, the idea of training method is basically it involves a number of activities which the trainer or the instructor is going to use to deliver the content, right. Apart from that, this actually helps you to change your behavior and attitude depending upon the requirement. So, if suppose if you are given a course on time management, if you remember we were giving this example yesterday also, that it is going to tell you what is time management in terms of the various issues related to say time management. The first part, that is knowledge. Then on the experience part, what you are going to do? The instructor is going to conduct certain exercises to find out your time wasters or time stealers. Then how are you going to do your scheduling, how you can avoid procrastination. So, that is based upon your experience. Okay. So, that is going to help you to become more effective so far as your time is concerned. So, you will be in a position to better manage your time. Not only better manage your time, but you will be able to see that you are going to be more productive, because you will have more time for doing certain things, right. And then you can adopt a strategy that how you are going to use your time and schedule your activities accordingly, right. So, the idea of a training is to ensure that it brings about a change in your behavior and attitude depending upon the requirement of the course, so that you become more productive, right. Now, what are the various methods that is used for delivering, right. It could be classified broadly into 3 areas, that is on the job training, classroom training, okay, then self paced training. Okay. So, these are the 3 different categories of training that have been identified in the literature. Now, what we will do, we will discuss one by one, starting with classroom training, then we will go to on the job training, and then we will talk about self paced training. Okay. So, what we are going to discuss now is the first part, that is related to classroom training, okay, which includes lectures, presentations, conference and these kind of things, okay, seminars, and where you are going to use a lot of audio visual aids, or where you are going through certain experiential exercises in the class, or sometimes it also happen that you are going to the field, okay, but that is what we know as outdoor training or what we know as field training, that is off the job training. So, all off the job training things come into the second part, and finally, we have self paced training, okay, where you are going to be it is either going to be paper based or computer based, where you are going to use internet and these kind of things. So, now we are going to take up the first one, that is the classroom training, and how classroom training is going to help you to learn, and this learning is going to ultimately help you to deliver better results. Now, if you look at this, that how the level of delivery by the HRD practitioners for different kind of HRD interventions takes place, because each one of them is to be discussed one by one, okay, starting with an organizational development project to a training to a career development or the online courses, or when you go for facilitation or coaching and mentoring. So, you can see that level of delivery goes up, okay, starting with what kind of program you are going to offer, right, and the requirement and the kind of intervention that is there changes depending upon the kind of delivery that is going to be taking place. Okay. So, if it is an OD project, in that case it requires highest level of delivery, because it requires participation from the trainers or consultant, then it requires participation of the line managers, it requires participation from the top management and also the employees, because everybody has to be engaged in the project when it comes to any kind of organizational development related intervention. And the level of delivery, I mean the level of involvement of the various stakeholder goes down, because in coaching and mentoring then it could be 1-to-1 or 1-to group, or in mentoring actually it is 1-to-1. Okay. So, the level of participation goes down as you move from different kind of training programs, right. Moving further, so we are going to start with the first method, that is known as a lecture or presentation method, which is the most common method till date for delivering information to the participants, right. What happens in a lecture method? That is, you are giving a lecture in the class. Okay. So, you are going to communicate certain information to the people, okay, which is going to be useful. Okay. So, you communicate, okay, information or knowledge which is going to be useful to the trainees, and if they are going to have this information, it would help them to be more productive and more effective on the job, right. This is the most least expensive and least time consuming, because it does not require much infrastructure, much resources. You require a trainer who is knowledgeable on a particular subject, so that he can pass on the information to the people. Let me give an example, that suppose something new that has come out, like say goods and services tax, right. The people who are working in the finance department, they need to be updated about the information, that how they are going to use it, right. So, you can call expert who is good in GST and knows the subjects very well. So, he would deliver you the results, so that you will be familiar with that how GST is going to be used, okay, by you related to your business. So, the finance department identifies certain people who is going to do this job for their company, because it is going to be implemented very soon, and then you prepare your people, so that they can implement this, okay, in your organization. Now, this is the lecture part. So, once they have the information, then based on the information they are going to bring about certain changes, okay, in their behavior, to see that how it is going to be implemented in the organization. So, the idea is that through these lecture methods we are going to present large amount of information, okay, in a classroom which does not require much infrastructure resources. So, it is less expensive, you do not take much time, okay, and you can train lot of people at the same time, because the classroom could be of 100 people, 200 people, okay, and all of them are going to hear you, or at least you are going to communicate with them. The only problem is that if the size of the class goes up, then probably it is going to be disturbing, in a sense that sometimes people are not attentive. Okay. Similarly, you will find that some people are doing something else in the class, okay, and the level of interaction goes down. So, you have to see that the class size is moderate if you really want to make it effective. Okay. Sometimes this is used as a supplement to behavioral modeling, and you can use even technology like audio visual aids during the lectures, so that it is going to be effective. Now, moving to the lecture method again, you have to see that what actually happens. So, one example that I have taken, I have already talked about it, that in a classroom lecture what happens, you allow students to listen to the lecture presented by the instructor, while shown the corresponding slides or lecture notes on a given topic, right. Now, if this kind of things is done, it is not going to be very effective, though it is widely used. So, you can go for variety, right, like you have a standard lecture, okay, like the standard information that is to be given on GST. Okay. So, the trainees would listen to it and try to absorb this kind of information. Okay. Or there could be 2 or more trainees giving the same kind of trainers giving the same kind of information, okay, or they are going to present alternative views. Okay. So, they will say, okay, this is how we are going to use GST, okay, to be cost effective, and then other person can say, okay, these are the various alternatives that you can go for, right. Then you can also invite guest speakers. Guest speakers, what happens, because they are going to present a different variety. Sometimes you know that when we are teaching MBA students, okay, then we invite people from the industry. Okay. So, they are called guest speakers. So, they are going to provide a different kind of perspective altogether. Okay. Then you can have panel discussions, panels where the number of people, maybe 3-4 people are going to speak and present information on the same topic, and then you can ask questions to them. And then another thing is that sometimes you also allow students to make presentations, okay, to understand and to see that whether they have really able to comprehend what is being discussed or communicated to them or not. So, there could be a variety of things that could be done in a lecture method, right, which could be supplemented. Now, if you look at these methods of presentations, it has certain advantages and disadvantages, right. Like team teaching, if you are going for that, you bring more expertise and it presents alternative perspectives for the same thing, but you need more trainers. For guest speakers, definitely it really helps trainees to have a different perspective altogether, right. They can give you different kind of examples and how are going to apply that knowledge in a particular context based on their experiences. Okay. Sometimes it may or may not be related to the course content, because they are not going to discuss something that is related to your subject, because that is more application oriented. Panels basically are a better way, because you get a different kind of perspective using a debate model. Okay. But trainees, if you are new, probably you will not be able to ask questions, or you may not be able to understand various perspectives. A student's perspectives, presentations are always good, because it helps you to understand, because you have to go through the material and then see what are the different perspectives that is presented. And but sometimes it inhibit learning, because if we do not go for these kind of things, we do not understand these materials, then probably you will not be able to do it. And similarly, if you do not have good communication presentation skills, then you are not going to be a good presenter as a student in a learning program. So, there are certain problems with the lecture method that I have been talking about, is like sometimes it become one way, it is not two ways, lacks participation, involvement, feedback and meaningful connection to the work environment. Because in lecture basically you are passing on information, okay. But in reality the same information may not be very useful. They will not be able to connect to the information or the knowledge that is being gathered by them and apply to the job properly. Okay. And since it is one way, less interaction is there, because if you have a larger class size, probably you will not be able to correlate or interact with the participants, and probably you do not get feedback also about this, that how the training has been, unless you go for a test and these kind of things. And probably you are using certain senses, only one or two senses, maybe audio senses or visual senses. Okay. So, the most focus is on hearing actually. So, most of the time it is the audio that is you are going to hear, though it is not only audio, because the person is present. So, it is visual also, but this audio visual senses may not be in a position to see that you are able to properly comprehend everything, because you are not going to use other senses at the same time, and probably since it lacks practical knowledge. So, you have to see that you do not know how to apply this knowledge and in what context it is going to be useful, right. So, it is very very important for you, the trainees, to have the requisite knowledge of his skill base, because that is why I was talking about learning pyramid. So, in learning pyramid, unless you have certain level of knowledge and skill, it is very difficult for you to understand quickly what is being discussed, right. And if it is supplemented with say question answer sessions, discussions, videos or case studies, then probably you will be able to bring some variety in this, and that is going to be helpful. Coming to the another way to do it, which is basically supplement to lecture, that is known as discussion method. Discussion method is basically a two-way communication, and it sometimes it is an alternative to what you call a group discussion method. So, either you call it a discussion method or a group discussion method. There is a two-way communication, and where participants are going to discuss on a particular topic, and each of them are going to share information knowledge related to that topic. Okay. And then there are certain questions that is used by moderators to control the session, lesson, that okay, this is the topic on which you are going to discuss, and everybody is going to have it. Okay. So, either you can have direct questions in the discussion, okay, which is going to produce narrow responses, because he is going to give a straightforward answer to a particular question, unless you ask for more alternatives. Okay. Then sometimes when you ask questions, then the person is going to be more reflective, in the sense that first he will try to understand what you are asking. So, he may be in a reflective mode. Okay, this is what you want to know. You know, sometimes when you ask questions to the teachers may not be in a position to understand your question. So, probably he is trying to comprehend and is going to be more reflective in the sense that he is going to say, this is what you mean, this is what actually you wanted to know, right. So, this is what we know as a reflection, and sometimes you have open ended questions, okay, and these open ended questions challenge learners to increase their understanding, because that helps you to come out with various perspective, like suppose you want to ask a question. Okay. So, there are two options, either he is going to give a straight direct answer to that particular questions, okay, or another thing is that he can give you an answer which is going to be covering a different perspectives. So, it is not just one answer, but he is going to give you a variety of options or answers which is going to be provided to him. Now, moving to further, what are the challenges when you are going to use this kind of method? So, the challenges is that if it is a very large class, discussion is not possible, because time and other resources does not allow to have this kind of things. Okay. And then you need a skilled facilitator, trainer, the moderator, who is going to facilitate this discussion, otherwise it becomes haywire. People are asking questions which is out of context. Sometimes you will find that the question that is being asked has no relevance. Okay. Sometimes people ask to clear their doubts, okay, which may not be meaningful. Sometimes people ask questions which may be very, very easy. So, the role of the trainer is to see that how he is going to control the class when it is the discussion starts, because you need to control certain things. First, questions that is being asked is relevant, it is not out of context. Second, the facilitator has to see that questions are being asked not just for the sake of being asking a question, but it must be able to see that it is going to help the learner to clear their doubts. Okay. Sometimes you know that the discussions become discussions takes a shape of confrontation. Okay. So, these kind of things should be avoided. So, discussion should always be healthy, it should be related to the content, okay. And the role of the facilitator or the trainer is to solve all the problems during the discussion which has come out, or any doubts that is there. So, he has to clear all the doubts that is coming out from the day. So, you need a skilled facilitator in the process to ensure that it is done properly, and it requires more lecture, because lecture is simply you are passing on information. So, the time that you consume is less compared to a discussion where you are going to take more time. Okay. And then trainees has to prepare for the lessons by reading assignments, otherwise you will not be ready for the discussion. Okay. So, discussion takes place only when you come prepared to discuss certain things, and for that you need to go through the lecture materials or reading assignments that is given. So, that you come prepared with the material and you understand the content, and then you can start discussion. Now, this lecture method is that is also supplemented by a lot of audio visual medias. Now, when I am talking about audio visual medias, it could be like overhead projectors, videos, and these kind of things, which is very often used while giving lectures. So, it brings you a variety in the lecture method, like you are only not going to see what is happening, okay, but you also see what is going on, right. So, there could be role plays, there could be demonstrations, there could be other images that could be brought in to show them that how things are going on and what they need to understand. So, two kind of media that is used is static media and dynamic media. Static media like lecture notes, PPTs, handouts, transparencies, right. These are static media which cannot be changed. Okay. Then dynamic media like audio cassettes, CDs, films, DVDs, videos, telecommunications. Okay. So, both kind of media are used in supplementing the lecture method. And then nowadays that this telecommunication has become very, very popular, where you are going to discuss things through teleconferencing, or you have instructional TVs which is going to provide you lectures, or it can also be done through video conferences, provided you have constraints of time and space. Okay. So, video conferencing is very, very popular these days, through which you can also give lectures, like that webinars, instead of calling it seminars, the term that we use today is called webinars, right. These webinars are nothing else but seminars that is given using the web. Okay. So, the lecture is given on the web, and then you can watch it at designated time and schedule that is available to that, and that is how you are going to use and supplement the lecture and presentation method to make it more effective. Still it is the most common method used in delivering information. That is all. Thank you.